Hey everyone, we're going to look at a 4-point Regents question on the Algebra Common Core. There's a couple things we have to do for this question, but the big idea surrounds writing a linear function. And then the other part of the question focuses on explaining what the equation represents in context, and that's a new thing that's been rolled out with the Common Core standards. So all we have right now is a table. So we have a table representing our function, and we have to get a function written based on that. Now, our functions are usually based on, linear functions are based on this formula. And we need to figure out our rate of change, or our slope, and we need to figure out where our equation starts at. Where does it hit the y-axis, the y-intercept? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find that slope by figuring out the rate of change. Now, we could figure out the rate of change with any of the 2 points. For this question, I'm going to use the second and fourth points because those are the only points that have 2 whole numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write those 2 points out. And then in another video, I already talked about average rate of change. To find that average rate of change, you're going to subtract bottom minus top. So you got 10 minus 6, which is 4, 12 minus 9, which is 3, and then we have the change in y's over the change in x. So we end up with 3 on the top and 4, which you could write as 0.75, but we'll leave it as a fraction. So as far as our equation goes, right now we have 3/4 for m. Now, to find b, what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to take one of those points in our slope and figure out what that b value is. So I'm going to use this first 0.69, and I'm going to rewrite that formula with those points and the slope in it. So I have 9 equals 3/4 times 6 plus b. So I'm going to multiply the 3/4 and 6 together. So 3/4 of 6 would be 4.5. And then I'm going to subtract that 4.5 from my 9. So that's going to give me a b value of 4.5. Now, the one thing I'm going to make sure of is that I'm using the right variables that they ask for in the question. And in the first part of one of the first parts of the question, it says write a linear function f of x. So I want to make sure I write that correctly. So I'm going to erase that y. Started my question. I'm going to replace it with the variable they want me to use, f of x. And I have x for the x value, which is correct. So that's our linear function for this problem. And now it's asking us to explain what the slope and intercept are in the context of the question. So what that means is we need to go back up to the top. The question talks about Tanya making greeting cards, and she spends, f of x represents the amount she spends, and x represents the number of cards she made. So our slope represents that change. In the case of this, our change was 3/4. Now we talked about earlier, 3/4 is the same as 0.75. So the 0.75 would represent her cost of making a card. And then the 4.5, or in the case of money, $4.50, that's going to represent how much the materials, the cost of the materials to make the cards. So she already spends $4.50 before she even makes one card, and then each card after that will cost her 75 cents. So that new push in the Common Core, making sure you talk about the given context, you need to go back and read the question itself to make sure it makes sense. And the equation, make sure, like we did here, make sure you use the right variables that are given to you, whether it's a table or in the question. Hope this helped, and good luck on the regions.